Is She-Hulk really that bad? Hey, what's up, nerd fam? This is your boy Gashan. I want to welcome you to Enter the Nerd. Today we're going to be talking about She-Hulk, at least the first 3 episodes. So now, as you know, just as a kind of disclaimer before watching the rest of my video, yes, I do lean more on the source material. Does that mean that nothing can change? No, right? Because there's something that just make more sense when it comes to live action, and there are just some stories that are just better from the source material to explain certain things, like certain origins just make more sense in the source material than they might in live action. So no, I'm not a stickler to that, but 8 to 9 times out of 10, the source material just happens to do it better, and I'll explain why specifically in this. And no, this had nothing to do with She-Hulk being a woman, because I actually really like the character She-Hulk as she is in the comic versus what we're getting here. So without further ado, let's get into that. So before I even watched this show, I was already hearing tons of extreme opinions, right? It was either this is crazy feminist garbage, and also this is the greatest show ever in the MCU. And obviously those are very extreme, so I'm thinking it can't be any one of these. There must be somewhere in the middle, but probably leaning towards one or the other. So I always want to make my decisions based on that. It was interesting to me where a lot of the feminists, like the bad feminists, tropes actually came from people who were feminists. That was like kind of like alarming to me, where people who were like access media were speaking about this show in a not good light, where they spoke about pretty much every other MCU show very, very well. I think Grace Randolph was one of them, where she was kind of like, this is a little bit cringy at times. I was like, oh, okay, well, she's somebody who usually just loves everything MCU, but she was kind of scathing in her initial 4-episode review, when she got a chance to get the screening or whatever, right? Now, upon watching this, what do I think? Here's my number one pro, and maybe my only one, which is the relationship between Jen and Bruce. It's believable. I like their chemistry, right? I also like Tatiana Maslany. Like she's good looking, and she has enough charisma to be able to honestly have been any version of She-Hulk that we really wanted, or Jen, whatever. She could have done it all, honestly. Now, in reality, what did we really get here? So if we start from episode 1, first and foremost, the origin. How does she become She-Hulk? Okay, so obviously in the comic, it's a mob hit gone wrong. She gets shot, has to get a blood transfusion. That didn't happen here. It was a car accident caused by some random, apparently Sakaran ship that just drops in the middle of the road. They fly off. It doesn't give chase at all for some reason, so it just sat down there just to get an accident and just ran for some reason. Bruce is incapacitated. She gets him out the car, and a couple drops go into her cut that she has open, and that's enough for her to turn to She-Hulk. Obviously, if you listen for one over the other, one does sound better. However, I'm not saying she had to get shot. It could have still been a car accident. But I think the transfusion thing makes a little bit more sense than just a couple of drops of blood. Honestly, it just makes more sense. Also, their relationship in the comic is also linked to Bruce's trauma, which is a big deal, which is going to come in further when it comes to how she handles her Hulk abilities and stuff. Because she also had a weird childhood where her mom died and her dad and her were kind of estranged. So her and Bruce and Jen kind of like bonded with having these weird relationships with their father. And he actually even leaned on her because he needed like help, like coping with it as well, which is something they could have showed, and maybe they might still, but I highly doubt it, because I already see that her family in episode 2 is like really, really functional versus what was actually in the comic. They hate, for some reason, the MCU really hates giving super heavy emotional issues to characters, even though that's what they've always been, to make them more layered. They just make them kind of one note, very surface level. But whatever, that's just something that we have to deal with in the MCU if that's what you're gonna watch, right? So the thing about her powers, about how she's able to control it and stuff like that, and I guess this is where the feminist stuff comes in, which is, actually, hold on, I'm skipping it. I'm skipping something here. When she ran off into the woods and ended up at some weird roadhouse thing, and then these guys came up being like super creepy, even though it's like, let's just face it, in these first 3 episodes, guys are just pretty much disgusting, and it's very purposeful. And when you look at how it happened in this episode, it was really unbelievable. Like, she kind of looked like a prostitute out there with that big furry ass coat. And it's like, do we think these three are just gonna do this and be like how Patrice O'Neal would say, like, ooga booga booga woman? Like, that's pretty much what they were trying to do here, right? It is what it is. And then they come on to her, and she pretty much she transforms right there, and then gets tackled by Bruce. So apparently these two Hulks that are out there in the middle of nowhere, no one spoke about that at all. There was no sighting, no nothing before Jen transforms into She-Hulk in the middle of court. So no one spoke about that before, which is also very strange. Let's fast forward to where I was going to go before. How she handles her powers. Oh, she can handle it so well because she just deals with anger. She deals with incompetent men talking down to her and getting catcalled, and that enables her to not have this other personality being in full control. Even though in the comics, the reason why Bruce is the only one that has that personality is because apparently he had like a mental schism when he was young and created a whole other personality, a whole other place for him to go mentally when he was getting abused. But they didn't want to speak about that because, Jen better, Bruce not as good, just seems like what it is. Because it's not only Jen. The Red Hulk also doesn't have other personality. And even the Red She-Hulk, which is like Betty later on, also doesn't have a whole other personality. It's just Bruce based off of what happened to him as a child. They kind of hint at that in the Eric Bana Hulk, and I thought that maybe it would carry over because Edward Norton is kind of does leave off with the Eric Bana Hulk. They're also, because Abomination is here, that's also kind of the Edward Norton thing, so I figured they kind of got that off, but judging by how the Hulk is talking about his abilities and him not being able to understand what's happening here, perhaps they just didn't take that part. And now it's just, Jen is just better at being a Hulk because, And what the hell happened with Titania? She comes in, Titania, pardon me. She comes into the flying kick, gets punched, and that's it. And all this for like parking ticket. I don't know what the hell this was about. That was just dumb. Episode 2, obviously, she's out there looking for a job. Once again, I think Tatiana Maslany has, she's great. She's a great actress. But like I said, I didn't like the whole family thing. I didn't like the fact that they didn't just go with what it was in the comic and give her some more layers rather than just think, oh yeah, my brother, they're responsible, he's the manager at Best Buy, and he's a good for nothing, and my parents, they're just so supportive of this, and it's like, oh well, like we know what it's like to have a Hulk in the family. It's like, why not do the change? But once again, you have almost a Captain Marvel thing where every dude in the show is a piece of shit. And all the women are like, yeah, even her friend, like the dude is sitting there like, oh, I can do this better than you. Oh, just let me talk in the court. And then the best friend is like, oh, everything you do is amazing. Whatever, right? Like, it's just literally, except for that one guy that's like a paralegal who we see a lot more of. Well, no, he's a lawyer in that same law firm as her, which we see a lot of in episode 3, which the biggest thing for me in that episode is what they did with the Wrecking Crew. Now, a lot of people will go, well, the Wrecking Crew's always been a joke. They've always been... Stop it. These are people who actually fought Thor before. And no, they haven't always been a joke. That's just like, look what they did. They were literally regular people who don't look like they can do anything. And she's like, oh, did you rob an Asgardian construction worker? How the hell would she know that? Oh, because there's new Asgard? Okay, maybe that's the excuse for it. But look at how they are in the comic and look at how they are here. They're rather giant people. Thunderball is an actual genius. Like, literally, they were calling him like the Black Bruce Banner because of how he could do things with gamma radiation that Bruce couldn't. Is this kid probably that? No, he most likely isn't. Most likely isn't. And the rest of these guys, once again, strong enough, when especially all 4 of them together, could fight Thor, even had some adventures fighting the Hulk. But they're almost like cat burglars with Asgardian magic. Hopefully they explain what the hell that's about. Hopefully they explain that. But if not, I'm just noticing how freaking hot it is in here. I'm freaking sweating through this shirt. It's crazy. But either way, I have to have the air off because it'll be loud and Mike will pick it up. Either way, tons of really weird stuff. I mean, even go back to episode 1, like showing her fight the Hulk and stuff. Like, their strength would not be anywhere close. It's just shown in that. Is this feminist garbage? I don't know. I'm good. Let me not say that. It does have some heavy feminist tropes in it, if that's what we're gonna call it. Men good, no, men obnoxious, evil, women, yay, and stuff like that. Oh, before I forget, the whole episode 3 Megan Thee Stallion twerking thing. Do I think that's off-brand for her character? No, like, she would be like that. However, there's a lot of people who have, oh, why is she doing this? And some people who are like, yay, this is... Okay. In this version of the character, she's like a man-hater. Like, kind of like, she doesn't really, like, that's like, men are like her problem. In the comic, she's all about the dudes. She's all about those guys, okay? And I mean that in the most gentlest way possible. Go read the comic, you'll understand. So her twerking and stuff like that, that's fine. And I guess it still does go with the trope of what's happening in the movie, because it's like, she can do those dances with herself, but she wouldn't like it, in this show at least, if dudes were looking at her and wanted her to do it. Whereas the She-Hulk didn't care in the actual comic, because she actually felt more free as She-Hulk. She was like, I'll sleep with whoever I want. What you gonna do? You're not gonna be able to do anything to me. And she felt liberated by it. She's like, you know what? This is not a curse, because I was invisible when I was Jen, but now I'm this when I'm She-Hulk. Versus Bruce was like, you know, Hulk is just destructive. So I can't, like, it's a curse for me. And that juxtaposition is something that we want to be able to see. Versus just, oh, she can just do it easier, so, different for me. And at some point in episode 2, Bruce is heading to space on that Sakaar ship. And a lot of people are like, yes, Planet Hulk or World War Hulk, whatever is coming. How? It's one of them things where they're alluding to something from the source material, but with none of the context to really set it up. Sakaar wasn't, because they're saying Sakaar was a place they were on Thor Ragnarok. Sakaar wasn't like that. There was no Kyra of Old Strong. The ship didn't blow up his kid. There wasn't, like, none of that happened. There was no Beta Ray Bill or anyone to, like, all of that stuff is gone. So, are we saying it's possible he just comes back with, like, a child with Scar out of nowhere? And people just like, yeah, because, you know, I Wikipedia'd it yesterday, and that's what Planet Hulk is. Like, all right. Okay. All the context is gone. But if that's what we're doing, and we're doing these weird, loose interpretations based off of, like, hey, you know, when I was out there in space, you know, I had a kid. Okay, I guess. And, like, I'm wondering, like, I see how Bruce is kind of getting shit on. Obviously, they can't use him by himself, but it's like, where the hell is Betty? Where the hell is the rest of these things? Like, wouldn't Jen had also known about those relationships? Like, whatever, I'm thinking too much. I really hope they get into they're probably not. The MCU doesn't really get into any of the deep stuff. They don't like it. Very surface level, make you laugh, comedy, and then just shit on the source material. And that's still happening right now. Once again, that's my preference. If you like it, I get it, especially if you don't have the same relationship with these characters that I do coming from the source material. However, if someone like me speaks the way they do about what they like and what they prefer, you know, don't shut it down. Don't be like, oh, well, you want everything to be exactly like the comics. I don't want everything to be exactly like the comics, but I can say that I think that what the comics do for the character is better, and I'm entitled to my opinion, just like you are to yours. Let me know what you think. Do you think She-Hulk is the greatest MCU show ever? Do you think it could be improved, or do you hate it? Let me know. Enter the nerd.